Hey everybody, Tom Barnes, Stories from the 78 in Old Town. Do you know where I'm at yet? I mean, come on. I'm at the legendary stage here at Zanies in Old Town. It's been around since 1978 and it has so many stories to tell. I mean, I can do probably a year's worth of these segments here, but I'm just gonna do one for now. But maybe we'll come back and do a few more. But I'm gonna talk to Brian, who's been a manager here. He's been performing here since like the 90s, and that is the story from the 78. But look, I mean, this is the view right here, folks. Thought I'd give it to you before we get started. All right, so there you go, the famous wall of hundreds of pictures throughout Zanies here in Old Town. And I'm here with Brian Hicks. How you doing, Brian?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm awesome, man. So you got like double whammy awesome job. You're the manager here at Zanies in Old Town, also a comedian. I mean, I'm sure you have many stories to tell about this institution that is the comedy institution here in Chicago.
Yeah, sure. So, 1978 is when it was first became a comedy club. I've been performing here since my guess would be right around 1999. So, just over 20 years was probably the first time I stepped on the stage here, and have been pretty much a regular in those 20 plus years that I've been here.
And so this is an institution for comedy in general. I think in our country, perhaps even in the world, where people they make a stop at Zanies, it's like making a stop at like Madison Square Garden almost for like a band when they're like this Zanies in Chicago is it. I mean it's one of the places to perform, right?
Yeah, I mean the word I always use is legendary
Yeah.
because it really is, and it's world known. We're in an unbelievable location in Old Town, so when people walk along the streets and they look up at the sign, and some people mispronounce it, but they just recognize the sign and they know what it is, and people, I'll hear them walk by all the time, be like, oh, this is Zanies, right? Like this
Right.
is the club if they're from out of town or something like that. So it's pretty amazing to hear.
So the importance of Zanies, you mentioned it's been around for since 1978, you
Yeah.
said, and it has broken so many different barriers in the comedy world and careers for that matter. I feel like we'll just walk along some of the pictures on the wall here and you'll see an actor now that's made millions of dollars in the industry, but you see a photo of them from like 20 years ago where
Sure.
they are hardly recognizable compared to now. But that's like kind of what happens here.
Yeah, that's really. I feel like that's real. Not many people who are doing, movies or selling out theaters come here. It does happen on occasion, but this is really the stopping place in Chicago for comics that are working their way up. And as you mentioned, we've got headshots here from comics from 20 years ago that are huge, huge names in the
Right, it's
industry now.
incredible.
And we got them when they were coming up and they were working their way up as a feature actor or a host at a show. So it's really pretty neat to see everybody in their different, I guess, time frames and stuff of when they've done comedy. And I did mention, typically we don't get comics who are doing theaters to come here, but just this past summer, Joe Rogan, who was he was performing at the Chicago Theater. He had 4 sold-out shows.
Yeah.
We found out he had never done Zanies before, so actually did a pop-up show here on a Thursday before his shows. And we announced his tickets on Tuesday, sold out within 30 minutes. And then Joe Rogan was here for the first time this year, 140 seats, intimate setting. Ticket prices did not go up at all. They were the same standard ticket prices as our weekday shows, so it was pretty amazing.
And that is like the legacy that I think that Zanies will forever have is just that you have these artists and comedic artists, I should say, who know about this place, who have played in Chicago for years. And like you said, Joe Rogan's a perfect example of like, I haven't played Zanies. I'm going to play Zanies. Like, I got to go do it.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that comes from our reputation. Other comics talking about, hey, have you been to Chicago? Well, where have you been? You never been to Zanies? And then that becomes a staple of the conversation. So we do get more and more comics who, as they come up and they're doing different cities and stuff, Zanies is on their radar because they know how legendary the club is.
And for folks that come here and who have never been, I mean, what you see behind you is what you get. It's intimate. It's a nice size.
Yeah. Absolutely, it's all those things. It's intimate. It's a nice size. It's in a great neighborhood, and it's a staple of Old Town. It really is. It's 140 seats, and when we pack them in, we pack them in, and people get a show about as close to the comics as you're going to get anywhere.
And for the folks that are coming here, what's the vibe like? You know, because comedy's gone through like this weird transition, I feel like, in the last couple of years with the pandemic and everything
Sure.
else going on in the world, where you hear about people getting, you know, inappropriate almost at a comedy show, which seems crazy, but
Yeah.
like, have you guys had to adjust to that? Or do you guys just keep doing your thing and, you know, take it as it comes?
Yeah, so that is pretty interesting. It has changed a little bit over the years. You know, pre-pandemic, we were a Tuesday through Sunday headline. You get one headliner. They work Tuesday through Sunday, 9 shows, and that's who was going to be here that week, right? After everything kind of shut down, we had to pivot, and we had to look at it from a different angle and maybe not bring in somebody 7 days. You know, we couldn't book 7 days a week because we're building up from the ground up again, right?
Sure.
So we started booking 1 or 2 days, and then we built backwards from there. So now typically we have headliner shows, you know, 3 days a week: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have always seem to have a special event throughout the week, and then we'll do showcase shows as well, which helps us to showcase some of the Chicago talents and people that are in our city, and local talent who are working their way up, which I think is really important to develop those relationships as well.
Right, you just touched on a little bit of what I wanted to ask you. As far as an up and coming comedian, especially in Chicago, how important is Zanies for them?
Yeah, you know, when I had started years ago, you had to be a working comedian to work at Zanies, right? You didn't get a chance to get on the stage here unless you got booked to be here for that, you know, Tuesday through Sunday show. Now with the showcase shows, it's a little bit different. We're able to give other people opportunities who are working their way up, and you know, there's multiple clubs that are in the city now, and they get a chance to do some of them. But it seems like Zanies has always been a club that is on everybody's radar, and it almost seems like that's the one that they want to break into, or at least break on the stage. You walk into the room, you can't help but just recognize the history on the walls, and I mean, pretty much anybody who has ever done it has been through these doors and up on this stage. So I think that means something for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's very much like an institution, like we were talking about before. Some of the names, I mean, what are some of the ones that stand out to you? I mean, you've been here for a long time,
Sure.
besides yourself, of course.
Absolutely.
Who else?
Yeah, I was going to
stands
start
out?
with me. But,
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, it goes everybody: Bill Burr, Dave Chappelle, Jim Gaffigan, Eddie Murphy. Back in the day, I wasn't here for that, but apparently he had stopped in. Jay Leno, you know, he's always had a soft spot in his heart for Zanies. So yeah, anybody who you can think of that has gone through and developed any kind of act and done the circuit of comedy in the last 30 years has probably been on the stage at Zanies.
And for folks that come in, you mentioned a little bit earlier, when they come in, how's the night work?
Yeah, sure. So doors usually open 1 hour before the show, and then we have table service. The servers will come to their table. We seat them. Nice music atmosphere just to have them relax a little bit and unwind before the show starts. We will dim the lights and make that a pre-show announcement and get everybody fired up. Bring the first host to the stage, which could be anybody. We're so lucky in Chicago to have such a rich group of comedians. It could be somebody working their way up. It could be somebody who's out of in-state, you know, just for the weekend.
Passing through, right?
Passing through. Or it could be a local headliner who's like, hey, I've got an off week. I'd come and host for you. So you never know who's going to be that first person you see on stage.
That's just incredible. It's a lot of fun, and I feel like it's just something that people need to know about when they're here. They're encouraged to be vocal a little bit, right? Like interact with the comic on stage, right? We're not just sitting here in church listening, right? I'm not heckling them. I'm not saying
Absolutely. Yeah, so you know what? We really do encourage our hosts to find out a little bit about the crowd and learn a little bit about them. Typically, after that, we do like everyone to kind of just focus on the comics
Right.
on stage. They've all written material. But, you know, with that said, a comic, from time to time, they will reach out to the audience and ask a question, and then it really does become fair game to talk to the comic from that aspect. We try to, I guess, we encourage people to keep, you know, enjoy the show. If a
Right.
comic asks you a question, absolutely you want to answer the question and go from there. So.
Right, yeah, just be respectful
Absolutely.
otherwise, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's the shift. I think that it's happened also in the comedy world as well. Just be a little respectful and know that you're going to a comedy show. Like, it's going to be funny, and probably people are going to be made fun of, not specific people, but in
Yeah.
general, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I mean, with social media the way it is now in comics, it seems like every clip you see on the internet, whether it's on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, is some sort of an interaction with the crowd. Comics really seem to really want to post those interactions.
Sure.
Because one, it doesn't show their material, right? They still have their material that they hold near and dear to their
Right,
heart,
yeah.
but it is a funny interaction with a customer or an audience member where they're like, this is great, this is funny, and it's good to put online. And I think sometimes that might give people the wrong idea. They think that every comedy show is just, you know, the comic talking to the audience and then the, you know, funny stuff happening. And some of them are, but certainly not all of them are, you know.
Right, you get to see a comic, you know, off the cusp, right? When they're doing
Absolutely.
that, but you come to hear their material, their set, the whole thing, and that is what I love about this place. And I'm glad that we got to talk about it today. What are your hours, and how does the best way for people to get tickets?
Yeah, so the best way to get tickets, the only way to get tickets, I'll mention, because there are some fake websites out there.
Yeah, okay.
ZaniesComedyClub.com. You can go tickets, and it's got links to all three of our locations. We got here in Chicago, I got a Rosemont location, and obviously one in Nashville. That's the best place to get tickets. Here in Chicago, we do shows 7 days a week. So we're open 2 on Friday, 3 on Saturday, and always adding pop-up shows and different shows throughout the course of the week. So.
And I imagine busier as the holidays approach, is, you know, because people are in town looking for something to do outside of the actual holiday.
Yeah, for sure. And then it seems like when the weather gets a little cooler, it's definitely a destination spot where summertime typically, unless we have a special event or something, you know, people typically want to be outside for stuff like that. But we do have great shows all throughout the summer, and we are open 7 days a week throughout the summer as well. So.
Fantastic. Brian, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And here's to another, 30 plus years, 40 plus years of Zanies, or 50, 60, 70, whatever it is. And when can people see you next?
Oh, me? Yeah, I don't have anything crazy local. It's usually just a pop-up here or there.
Can they follow you on social media or
Yeah,
anything?
sure. My website is funnybrianhicks.com, and all my social media handles are at funnybrianhicks. So perfect.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you.
All right, that's the story here from Zanies in Old Town, Tom Barnish, Chicago at gmail.com if you have a suggestion for one of these stories from the 78, or head over to the website storiesfromthe78.com. We'll see you later.